Hey smokers, Draga1 here, and today we're going to do a quick little video here just to take a look at the Explorer's special 2011 edition CD. Now when I bought this on Amazon, it was the last Prime available item. The rest of them were sort of buy it from third-party sellers. I was under the impression that this was a rare CD since I couldn't actually find the soundtrack, on sort of more digital distribution like iTunes or anything like that. I didn't see any of the tracks available on those kind of stores. I think I saw the album a couple times on Amazon back around the time when this actually came out, but the price for it was just so high. It was like $100, $150, something like that. It was a ridiculous amount, more than I was willing to spend at the time. So this is the last one that was left. So as you can see, this one is actually much longer than the cassette tape version. I actually over time managed to make a compilation that had some of these extra songs on here, as well as stuff from the tape version. I actually had access to the tape version for some amount of time, and of course I only had like a fraction of these songs, and then I put it together with a few MP3s I found online, and they just sounded terrible. But that was the most I had was just that whole soundtrack. So now I have the entire soundtrack. Now, one thing you'll notice is, if you're familiar with Explorers at all, there's a couple songs from different bands of the time period. Night Ranger, Red 7. Okay, so not so much on the Little Richard. Was it Little Richard? It was somebody. But it was three actual artists who had songs. Their songs were featured in the movie, and I'm well aware that they're not on here. There's a little crack. There's a little crack in the casing. Oh well. As you can see here, it has all the soundtrack tracks, but not any of the extra tracks. There's actually somebody in the reviews that's basically saying, hey, be careful, don't get bootlegged copies of these, because it's really easy to. Paramount Pictures, licensed this out to Intrada. So, So I guess there's a bit of suspicion that this may actually be a bootlegged copy. I don't think so, since it was Amazon Prime, but we're going to be opening it here today just to see. So this is, I guess, what you would call rare, but not really. I mean, I was seeing some other special edition CDs out there. There's Intrada and there's one other one. I don't really remember what the other one is, but there's apparently another one out there that has both soundtrack tracks and the ones that have the lyrics. Now, some extra stuff, such as track 32 and 33, that I have no idea what those are. But it is interesting to see a space-related soundtrack release that has both Jerry Goldsmith and Alexander Courage. Where have we heard those two before? So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and see what it looks like inside. We got to check out to make sure it's not a bootleg or whatever. It probably isn't. I don't have any reason to think that it is, just because, it's really that guy in the reviews that was basically saying, hey, you got to be really careful. And I guess I was careful. I got the last Prime copy. So let's go ahead and open this as carefully as possible, maybe even using a sharp tool. Now, I have no reason to believe that this is, bootlegged or anything, just because it's, it's fulfilled by Amazon, I don't think I've ever had a ribbon come off like that. Is that how you're supposed to open CDs? Have the ribbon go around the side? Okay, so here it is. Try and take this in. Yeah, that does not look like a bootleg. That looks... Let's take a look at the actual back of the CD itself. Yeah, that looks stamped right there. This feels like, your average CD liner here. It's got a bunch of different stuff. A lot of background here. I'll probably read through this. When the original Explorer soundtrack LP was released in 1985, it features 3 prop songs, and the remaining orchestral tracks focused on the film's bright, infectious energy, but in eliminating more than half of the score from the albums. Yeah, I should have just read this to begin with. The LP obscured the score's moody Americana aspects and the melancholia that had been Dante's first instinct regarding the score's direction. I put a very mournful temp score on the movie. I used Bernard Herrmann's walking distance music from The Twilight Zone, which I used a lot in those days. And I remember Jerry saying, "Do you really want it to be this sad?" I said I didn't want it to be depressing, but it's a movie about dreams that don't come true. It's a movie about learning what you think you're going to find in outer space isn't this great revelation. Was that really what the movie was about? Well, that's not what I took from it, I guess. A major part of the bounce and drive that came from the pulsing rhythm heard at the beginning of the construction, which also forms the rhythmic basis. Okay, so I could read this like all day. But it has some cool, it's not any behind-the-scenes footage in any of these. Yeah, at this point I'm pretty much thinking that this is definitely not a bootleg, just looking at the quality of this, how many pages there are. So it has a description of every single track. It has, there's that Robert Picardo right there. It actually is describing what's happening in the movie when the songs are playing. So you can follow along with what's actually going on in the movie while you listen to the soundtrack. And everything is supposed to be in order. So, this is probably, like, for any fan of this movie, which I definitely was when I was a kid, I would have loved the crap out of this thing if I had it back in the day. But this actually came out in 2011. So, Explorer's Q assembly. Oh, then I'll actually explain these. Alexander Courage arranged this treatment of Wagner's music to play over a dinner scene at Wolfgang's house, which continues briefly into the following scene over a shot of Charlene's helicopter in flight. Okay. Was that even in the movie? I don't really remember, even though I watched it yesterday. 2 days ago? Courage, no slouch in writing a big league space music himself, takes an operatic approach to the faux Italian space epic Star Killer. Oh, okay. It's the Star Killer theme for the space movie. And for those of you who want to know what that is, that's the fake, like, really bad looking 50s movie in the movie that they're watching on the drive-in. When I was a kid, I thought it was the one with Robert Picardo, Star Killer. Star Killer is the movie that, I mean, it's not an actual 50s sci-fi movie that's done very poorly. It's one that's, a parody of that they just put in to show for the drive-in scene, so they didn't have to pay royalties, I guess. And also, it's really cheesy and funny. And then, of course, you got Robert Picardo. And Star Killer was apparently George Lucas's original name for what would become Luke Skywalker. So I think that's why. And then it has, like, Yar's Revenge sound effects as the sound effects for the space movie. So that's going to be an interesting listen. Now, of course, I won't have any samples of the music on this video. A little sad. Probably somebody's uploaded it somewhere on YouTube already. You could probably find it. But yeah. Tech talk from the CD producer. Holy hell. So yeah, this looks like a pretty solid release here. Really, really nice stuff in the liner notes, more than I was expecting to get with this. The actual CD itself, Special Collection Volume 180, conducted by Jerry Goldsmith. Careful. So, credits right there. And that's a shadow of whack in the background. And again, without the obstructing this barcode. Alright guys, so I mean that's a look at the Intrada Special Edition of Explorers. Um, I don't usually do videos like this, so this is going to be kind of a quick one. So who knows when this is going to be coming out, or if there'll be a solid real video this week, but at least it's something that for you guys, if you're at all interested in this. And what sort of inspired this was that I featured some footage of the movie in the last video, so I was like, okay, this was just a childhood favorite. Thanks for watching, everybody. À plus tard.